In August 1995, Radiohead released the single Just from my favourite album of theirs, The Bends. And with it came one of the most iconic and hotly debated music videos of all time. Let me talk you through it. There are two things happening in the video. There's film of the band performing the song, but we're going to ignore the band for now, because intercut with shots of their performance is a film storyline. The video opens with a man standing and staring into a bathtub for a few seconds. He then disrobes and gets in. We next see him walking down an empty, tree-lined London street wearing a suit. He crosses the road, enters another street, and then stops walking between two huge buildings. After two women walk past him, he lies down on the pavement. Another man walks down the street coming the other way. He doesn't see the guy on the floor and trips over him. The second man gets up and says, "Jesus, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Are you okay?" The man on the floor replies, "Yes." The second bloke asks, "What happened? Did you fall?" And the man on the floor replies, "No, I'm fine. Please leave me alone." The second guy says, "You've been drinking." But the man on the floor replies, "I haven't been drinking." At this point, the second man gets annoyed and says, "Why are you lying in the middle of the pavement? You could have broken my neck." Presumably, the man on the floor doesn't reply because it then cuts back to the band. The second man, a bit calmer now, crouches down and says, "Look, what's wrong? Here, let me help you up." And he reaches for the fallen man's arm, but the man on the floor shouts out aggressively, "No, don't touch me." And the second man pulls away. At this point, two passers-by stop and ask, "What's the matter with him? Has he fallen?" And the second man replies, as if trying to solve a puzzle, "No, he hasn't fallen." And a crowd begins to gather. Someone in the crowd asks, "Is he hurt?" The man on the floor says, "No, please, all of you, leave me alone." Someone else in the crowd says, "He must be mad." The man on the floor replies, "I'm not mad, just leave me alone." The second man is now becoming deeply invested in solving this riddle and asks, "Why are you lying down? Why won't you tell me what's wrong?" And at this point, the man on the floor, as if recognizing that second man's emotional investment, says, "Look, I can't tell you. It wouldn't be right." Someone in the crowd says again, "He must be mad." Someone else shouts out to an American policeman on active patrol in London for some bizarre reason, "Oh look, officer, officer," and the policeman approaches. The copper crouches down and asks the man on the ground, "Are you all right?" And he responds, "I'm fine. Please, will you just let me lie here?" The copper responds, "I'm afraid I can't let you do that, sir." The policeman reaches out to move him, but the man on the floor once again convulsively screams, "Don't touch me," and the copper backs off. The second man is now getting desperate. Despite having been told by the man on the floor that it would be morally wrong to hear the answer, he nonetheless says, "Just tell me why you're lying here. Tell me." The second man doesn't care that it wouldn't be right, he just wants the answer. The man on the floor gives him a second warning, "You don't want to know. Please believe me." The second man responds, "You don't think there's any point, right? What, that we're all going to die? Is that it? Is that why you're lying here?" The man on the floor responds, "No," almost as if he's saying, "We're not all going to die." The policeman is now also desperate to know, shouting, tell us for Christ's sake." The man on the floor works the crowd. He asks, "You want to know why I'm lying here?" The second man shouts, "Yes." The man on the floor asks again, "You really want to know?" "Yes, I'll tell you. I'll tell you why I'm lying here. But God forgive me and God help us all, because you don't know what you ask of me." The second man is now right on the edge of his metaphorical seat, and he yells, "Tell us!" And the man on the floor turns to look at the sky. The second man rises to his feet and joins the crowd to hear the answer. And here we reach the central moment of the whole video and the point over which people have argued and debated for now well over 20 years. The man on the floor answers, but there are no subtitles. We see him answer sideways on, then halfway upside down, and then in the next shot he is fully upside down and everyone else is laid out on the pavement too. Whatever it is he has said, it has affected the crowd so strongly that they are all now following his example and are also laid out on the ground. So, the first question to answer is, what does the man in the video say right at the end? We're going to home right in, do a little bit of lip reading and figure out what he says, and then, hopefully, we're going to figure out why. I'm going to share with you guys what is, in my opinion, the true meaning of the song and the video taken together. So, let's start by watching the moment we need to lip read one more time, exactly as it appears in the video. So as you can see, the man on the floor is kind of the wrong way round in the frame. So let's fix both of those shots to make him the right way up. Now you might actually notice, once we've got the clips the right way up, that the man is actually saying the same thing twice. And here's the really interesting thing. The clips are back to front. The director has taken the first about 2/3 and moved it to the back, and the last about 2/3 and moved it to the front with a little overlap in the middle. So let's switch those two clips so that they are the right way round again. Now you can see that little overlap section in the middle. So let's blend those two phrases so that they smoothly flow into one another with no overlap, and then we can cleanly see the whole phrase. Now the actor really helps us out here because he is mouthing the phrase so cleanly. You might disagree with my interpretation, but I'm pretty sure what he's saying here is, I've seen a way. And it cuts off halfway through the word way. Let me slow it down and play it for you again, once with no sound and then once with me saying the words. I've seen a way. Confused? You might be. Understanding what he says doesn't necessarily mean the video makes any more sense. But hopefully it will make sense once I put it into context. The first thing to understand about top filmmakers is that almost nothing is left in the film by mistake. Everything is there by design. Carefully crafted, well-made films are full of Easter eggs, little hints and clues as to the true meaning. And as we examine the trail of breadcrumbs in this video, we start to get an idea of what Jamie Thraves, the director, is trying to tell us. Now, stay with me here, because I'm going to put my cards on the table right at the beginning and then lay out the considerable evidence for my theory. I think Jamie, the director, actually tells us the identity of the man on the floor in the very first line of subtitled dialogue. And that is far from the only reference to the idea of God and Jesus and religion in the video. Anyone who's watched my previous video can tell you that I'm an atheist, but I have a degree in theology. And I can tell you that there are lots of other references to Jesus and the gospel story in the video. So, let's test out my theory. Let's look at various elements and moments in the video once again, but through the lens of assuming that that first line of subtitled dialogue is not a swear word, but it's telling us the identity of the man on the floor. The story of Jesus launching his time as a religious leader in the Bible starts off with him being baptized in the River Jordan. And as soon as he emerges from the water, his ministry begins. And what's the first scene in the whole video? It's the main guy getting into the water in his bathtub. Baptism. There is also a large proportion of phrases in the subtitled dialogue that are taken directly from the pages of the Gospels. The second man says, "You've been drinking," and the same allegation is made against Jesus in Luke 7:34. A member of the listening crowd says, "He must be mad," and the same allegation is made against Jesus in John 10:20. The man on the floor says, "Don't touch me," and Jesus says the same thing in John 20:17. The man on the floor says, "You don't know what you ask of me," and Jesus says the same thing in Matthew 20:22. But now let's look at that final phrase, the one without subtitles, the one that I believe says, "I've seen a way." I would like to suggest that this is meant to be one of Jesus' most famous phrases from John 14:6, where he says, "I am the way." And I think Jamie Thraves tweaked it just slightly to make it a little bit less recognisable. This is the line in the Bible where Jesus proclaims himself the Messiah, and the director seems to have changed it round just a little bit to make it less of an obvious giveaway. It's also worth noting that Christianity itself is called the Way in the Bible. But what's really interesting is what the director has done with that moment visually. The phrase is chopped up and back to front, and by the end it's completely upside down. It gives the impression of something skewed and messed up and back to front and wrong. Then there's the American police officer in London. Why an American copper in London? I very much doubt that this was some strategy to crack the American market. I think that represents the dominant world power at the time. Back in the days of Jesus it was Rome, but today, where the story is set, it's America. And just as Rome was, the representative of the dominant world power at the time is also converted and ends up down on the floor. This mirrors Rome under the Emperor Constantine adopting Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire in 313 AD. It's also brilliantly written how the man lying down in the street grabs everyone's attention seemingly reluctantly, seemingly unwillingly. But why is he laying down in a street? The street is a very, very public place. It's meant for walking, not lying down. He has a home where he could lie down. We see it in the first shot. He's doing something that is guaranteed to attract attention, and he's doing it in public in one of the busiest cities on the planet. It's a choice to lay down in the street, not at home. And so he gets his first follower seemingly by chance, except it's not by chance because he made the choice to lie down in a public place. Even those who think he's mad are still fascinated by him and stick around. The man on the floor, however, plays them so well that even the people who think he's mad end up becoming his followers. It's brilliant because the man on the floor is playing the reluctant Messiah. He says he wants to be left alone. He says he doesn't want all this attention, whilst simultaneously doing something in a very public place specifically designed to attract a lot of attention. It's a crash course in the art of manipulation. But what about the song itself? Director James Thraves says there is a common theme between the video and the lyrics, saying this in Rolling Stone. It was originally going to be my next short film, but when I heard Just, my story and the song suddenly exploded in my head and collided. It was like they were meant to be together. So, let's look at just one verse of lyrics and see if they back up my theory. Here's the first verse. Can't get the stink off. He's been hanging round for days. Comes like a comet, suckered you, but not your friends. One day he'll get to you and teach you how to be a holy cow. So let's go line by line. In the first line, we meet a character called the Stink. We know it's a character because it's a he, not an it. The Stink is a person who hangs around for days, unwanted. In the second line, we learn something about this male character. He suckers people, not all, but some. And in the third line, we find out what he does to the people he suckers. He teaches them to be a holy cow. It all lines up, doesn't it? It seems to me, at least, there is total synchronicity between the lyrics, the video, and this interpretation of both. The chorus says, you do it to yourself, and that's what really hurts. You do it to yourself, just you and no one else. I think this video is a 1990s British retelling of the Jesus story. I think the story of the video and the song is that of false messiahs and how easy they have it when it comes to succouring people. The band and the director are showing how people are just so desperate to believe in something that a false messiah can literally just pretty much lie there and the people will just do it to themselves. But have I got that right? Let me know in the comments below if you have a different interpretation of the video or if you lip read what the man is saying in a different way. Go check out the full original video by Radiohead and Jamie Thraves if you haven't yet, and don't forget to check the comments section because in March 2020 Jamie Thraves said, "Sometimes I'm very tempted to go online under a pseudonym on YouTube and plant the exact truth amongst all the conjecture. Perhaps I've done that already."